Hello friends, welcome back to our channel NEET Biology Expert. This is Dr. Parveen. In this lecture series, we are studying class 12 biology genetics. In this particular lesson, we are going to learn in detail about DNA replication, the enzymes and the mechanism of semi-conservative mode of DNA replication. We know that DNA is the basic component for any cell. It is the controlling unit of any cell. Apart from controlling the cell, the DNA has to perform several functions. So depending upon what function the DNA performs, we can classify the DNA functions into two categories. One is heterocatalytic function and another is autocatalytic function. What is heterocatalytic function? The DNA has to control the synthesis of other molecules of the cell. That is called heterocatalytic function. For example, synthesis of RNA from DNA is one heterocatalytic function. That is what we call as transcription. Synthesis of RNA from DNA is called as transcription. This is one function. Similarly, protein synthesis is also a function of the DNA. That is what called as translation. So these two are examples for heterocatalytic function of DNA. What about autocatalytic function? We know that auto means a self. So as how the DNA helps for the synthesis of other molecular components of the cell, it has to synthesize its own. That means it has to make a replica of its own. That is called as autocatalytic function. So the synthesis of DNA is called as replication. Here the DNA directs the synthesis of DNA itself. That is called as autocatalytic function. So in this lecture, we are going to learn about this autocatalytic function of DNA, that is replication of DNA. What is DNA replication? What is the definition for DNA replication? The process by which the DNA duplicates itself is called as a replication. So it has to duplicate itself. Hence, for the terminology replication, it is derived from the word replica. Replica means copy. Okay, copy. So the DNA has to produce copies like its own. So that's why this is called as a replication. Through this replication, two copies of DNAs that are identical will be produced. Say, for example, if this is a double stranded structure of DNA, after one cycle of replication, okay, after one cycle of replication, so two copies of the DNA double strand will be produced. The DNA replication occurs in three different modes, okay. So here when we talk about double-stranded DNA, which is present in majority of the living organisms, here the DNA replication is called as semi-conservative mode of replication. This semi-conservative mode of replication was proposed by Watson and Crick in the year 1953. We know that the double helical structure of DNA was proposed by Watson and Crick in the year 1953. So during the same period, they proposed that the DNA, when it replicates, it will replicate semi-conservatively. Okay. Why? Because when we see the structure of the DNA strands are anti-parallel. That means one strand runs from 5' to 3' direction and another strand runs from 3' to 5' direction. Isn't it? So these two strands are anti-parallel. Also, they are complementary to each other. If one strand is having adenine, the other strand will have thymine. If one strand is having guanine, the other strand has cytosine. This is complementary. Since DNA is anti-parallel and complementary based upon this nature, the replication of the DNA occurs in semi-conservative method. Also, we call this as semi-continuous replication or bidirectional replication. What is semi-continuous mode of replication? Look at this picture. In this picture, this red color, these two are the double-stranded DNA, right? So this red color strand, they are the parent strands. So when the DNA replicates like this, okay, so from here the replication occurs. These are the new two strands produced, okay. So these strands are called as daughters. They are the daughter strands. So when we see the daughter strand, only one of those two strands is the newly formed strand, whereas the another one is exactly the same parent strand. Okay, so look at this picture here. The red colored one is the same parent strand. The purple one is the newly produced daughter strand. Okay, similarly, the other strand also. So here, one of the parent strand is preserved. The characters are same. The genetic sequences are same. Okay, so that's why this mode of replication is called as semi-conservative. Half of the parent strand is protected in the daughter. So that's why this is called as semi-conservative, or another word, semi-continuous. Semi-continuous means when the DNA replication occurs, the whole double-stranded DNA completely won't get unwind and full production will not occur. Because when you see here the replication in this strand, the full strand is not completely getting replicated. Okay, so half of the strand remains as such as double strand and remaining half gets replicated. Okay, so this is what we call as semi-continuous replication. And also bidirectional replication occurs in both the direction, from 5 prime to 3 prime, from 3 prime to 5 prime. Okay, so in this lecture, let us understand this complete semi-conservative mode of DNA replication in detail. Because when you see your textbook, NCERT book or other state board books, the replication will be given in just 4 or 5 paragraphs. That's it. So when students, they study for the first time, they could not able to understand DNA replication from the textbook. So here, I will teach you all the basic steps how DNA replication occurs. That is step-by-step method. Okay. Here, DNA replication occurs in 8 consecutive steps. So the first one is activation of nucleotides. The second one, point of origin or initiation point formation. Third one, unwinding of DNA molecule followed by formation of replication fork. Then synthesis of new strand will occur. It leads to leading and lagging strand formation. Then maturation of Okazaki fragments occurs. Finally, formation of daughter DNA molecules. So these are the consecutive 8 steps in which DNA replication occurs in a cell. So now, before moving on to the theoretical part, how DNA replication occurs, let us understand everything using a single picture. Okay, this picture. Because you know that in biology, picture is very, very, very important to learn. So if you are by heart or if you understand a picture completely, you could read any textbook without any confusion. Right. So there are many enzymes involved in DNA replication. Replication will not occur as such. Many enzymes are needed for replication. So this is what given here. Okay, so let us see what are these enzymes and its function. So look at this picture at the rightmost corner here. What is this? This is chromosome present inside a cell. Okay, this is a chromosome. So when we stretch a chromosome, we could able to see this thing, that is double-stranded DNA. Okay. So in this double-stranded DNA only, a replication is going to occur. So the point where the replication starts, it will have one direction, right? So it has polarity. So from here, if this is the point where the replication is going to start, then this one strand has 3' polarity and another strand has 5' polarity. So from here only replication is going to start. Before that, the DNA remains a double-stranded helix only. Okay, right. So the first thing what will happen is an enzyme called helicase will come and act here. The helicase unwinds the DNA double helix. So we know that DNA is a double helical structure. So something has to come there to unwind the double helix. So that is what this helicase does. This black color thing, triangular shaped thing, this is the enzyme helicase. Okay, we also call this as DNA helicase. The first thing is DNA helicase come and it will cut the hydrogen bonds between these two double helix strands. See, this double helix strand has hydrogen bond in between them. So hydrogen bonds are weak bonds. So the helicase come and cut these hydrogen bonds like a molecular scissor. So what will happen? The double helical stranded DNA, which is wounded like this. Okay. So now here the enzyme is coming and cutting. So the helix gets relaxed like this. Okay. This is the first step. The second step is an enzyme called topoisomerase comes to this place. The topoisomerase function is to relieve the torque during unwinding. That means if the DNA helix is like this, okay, so what happened first, the helicase comes and unwind the DNA like this. So when the double strand were tightly wounded, that time more tension will be there. Okay, so when it gets immediately relaxed because of this high tension, there is a chance that those strands may break also. So in order to avoid that, in order to reduce the tension or the torque present in between the two strands, an enzyme called topoisomerase comes and functions here. This is the second enzyme, this green color thing. Okay, topoisomerase release the tension present between the two strands. Then third thing, single strand binding proteins. Okay, so now those two double strands get separated, unwinded. Okay, now here there is more chance that these two double strands could again rejoin, isn't it? So though the hydrogen bonds were broken by the helicase enzyme, there is more chance that these two double strands could again rejoin or rewind. So in order to prevent the rewinding or rejoining of these two separated strands, a protein called single strand binding protein, okay, it comes and attaches to this single stranded DNA. Understood? So this red color thing is the single stranded separated strands. Okay, so this purple color things are the single stranded binding proteins, which we call in short form SSBP. This single strand binding proteins, they come and hold the single strand apart from each other, otherwise it will join together. Okay, so this is the third thing. Then the fourth thing is an enzyme called DNA primase is required now. This is the fourth enzyme. So what is the function of DNA primase? Here, this is the template strand. This red color thing is the template strand or the parent strand. Now DNA has to replicate by seeing the template strand. Okay, whatever nucleotides are present, just complementary nucleotides has to be added for the new daughter strand. Now, so it needs some base for this, right? So anything without base, we cannot construct. For example, when you construct a building without a basement, how can we construct a building? So something is needed as a base. So like a base, here a RNA primer will be produced. Okay. So this is the RNA primer. For the production of new strand of DNA, a small segment of RNA primer is needed. From this RNA primer only, new strands of DNA will be produced. Okay, that means new nucleotides will be added one by one after this RNA primer. Okay, so that is how the replication is going to occur. So I will tell you all this in detail, okay, after this, right? So now, in order to produce this RNA primer, an enzyme is needed that is called DNA primase. DNA primase is a type of RNA polymerase enzyme only. So in full form, we call this enzyme as DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Okay. So in short, we call this enzyme as DNA primase. So this enzyme produces a short segment of RNA nucleotide, approximately 10 to 12 base pair in length. So that is called as RNA primer. Now, after the RNA primer synthesis is completed, the next enzyme going to act is DNA polymerase 3. So this is the main enzyme for DNA synthesis or DNA replication. Okay, so here in this picture, you could see here this one. This is the enzyme DNA polymerase 3. Okay, so what is the function of DNA polymerase 3? This is the enzyme which will add the nucleotide bases to this RNA primer. It will add one by one nucleotide bases and it extends the RNA primer. So it synthesizes the DNA strand complementary to the template strand. So this is the function of DNA polymerase 3. Now, When you see the NCERT textbook, you could see one picture like this here. If this is the semi-continuous method of DNA replication, one strand, parent strand, runs from 5' to 3' direction. Another parent strand runs from 3' to 5' direction. Okay. And this pink color one is the newly synthesized strand. So in one direction, the newly synthesized strand is from 5' to 3' direction. That is, it is continuously synthesized. That's why this is called continuous synthesis. Whereas if you see the other side here, the new strand is not synthesized continuously. It is synthesized one after another with some small breaks in between them. Synthesis of the other strand is not continuous. That's why this is called as discontinuous synthesis. Okay. So the new strands are produced in short fragments. So this fragments is called as Okazaki fragments. Okazaki fragments. Okay. So we will learn all this, why all this discontinuous synthesis occurs. Okay. Now this Okazaki fragments will be produced. That means in between each strands there is a small gap. Here, when we come back and look at this picture, in one strand, the DNA synthesis is continuous. There is no break. The DNA polymerase enzyme keeps on adding the nucleotide. So, the DNA synthesis is continuous. Whereas, if you see the opposite strand, it is not so. Okay. So, here the DNA is produced in short segment that is called as Okazaki fragments. Now, what will happen, and another enzyme called DNA polymerase 1 will come and replace those primers. So once the synthesis is completed, those RNA primers has to be removed. Okay, that will be done by an enzyme called DNA polymerase 1, and another enzyme called DNA ligase will fill the gap in between these Okazaki fragments. Okay, then finally another enzyme called DNA polymerase epsilon and nuclease will do proofreading. These are the different steps in DNA replication. Now let us see all the steps one by one in detail. So the first step in DNA replication is activation of nucleotides. So for the production of DNA, it first needs nucleotides. Okay, right. What are the 4 different nucleotides required for a DNA? That is adenine, guanine, thymine and cytosine. These are the 4 DNA nucleotides. These nucleotides, they present as monophosphate. That's why we call this as adenosine monophosphate, guanosine monophosphate, thymine monophosphate and cytosine monophosphate. Okay. So these monophosphates, they are present in the nucleoplasm region. Where is nucleoplasm? When you see the nucleus, the fluid present inside the nucleus is called nucleoplasm. So this is the cell. So this is the nucleus. Okay. So inside the nucleus, the region where the fluid gel-like thing is present, this is what we call as a nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm. There is another name for nucleoplasm, that is karyoplasm. Karyo means nucleus. Okay. So karyoplasm or nucleoplasm. So in this region, all this nucleotides for the DNA synthesis, they are present in an inactivated form. That is, they are present in monophosphate form. Now, the first step for the DNA synthesis is these nucleotides should be activated. That is done by an enzyme called phosphorylase. Phosphorylase. Okay. So, the nucleotides are activated by ATP in the presence of enzyme called phosphorylase. So, what will happen? This enzyme phosphorylase, they add more phosphate group to this nucleotide. So initially it is monophosphate. Okay. So they will add more phosphate to this. So it will become triphosphates. So adenosine monophosphate will become adenosine triphosphate. This is what we call as ATP. Guanosine monophosphate will become guanosine triphosphate. Thymine monophosphate will become thymine triphosphate. Cytosine monophosphate will become cytosine triphosphate. ATP, GTP, TTP, CTP. Since these molecules or these nucleotides are for the synthesis of DNA, so we mentioned this small d in before them, because the same thing will occur for RNA synthesis also. Okay. So since these nucleotides are required for DNA synthesis, This is called as deoxyribo. Deoxyribo, deoxyribo, deoxyribo. So we write small d as a prefix. Understand? So this inactive nucleotides is now activated by the presence of phosphorylase using ATP as the energy. Okay. So this process is called as phosphorylation. So phosphorylation is the first step in the DNA replication. The next step is recognition of point of origin or initiation point. So what is this? That means there is a definite region in the DNA where the replication originates. When we see a double helix structure of DNA, the replication will not start from any point randomly. There is one specific point. From that point only, DNA replication gets started. So that point is what we call as the point of origin or origin of replication, in short ORI, point or ORI site. Okay. So this point of origin differs from eukaryotic and prokaryotic cell. When we see a prokaryotic cell, that is bacterial cell, the size of the DNA is small. There must be only one point of origin. Okay. So see here, if this is the double helix circular DNA of a bacterial cell. Okay, so this region is having only one point of origin. Whereas when we see an eukaryotic cell, the size of the DNA is giant. The size is big. So there will be several point of origin, several replication sites in a eukaryotic cell. Okay, so like this. Then if there is a starting point, there must be definitely an end point, isn't it? So the starting point is what we call as origin ORI, and the end point is what we call as the T point or termination point. Now, how the enzyme helicase will recognize the point of origin? Because helicase is the first enzyme that is going to come and break the hydrogen bond between the two strands, and thus the unwinding, right? So the DNA helicase has to recognize the point of origin. So which point exactly will be recognized by DNA helicase? So if you see a DNA strand like this, okay, so wherever the strand has more adenine, thymine like this region. So the region which is more rich in adenine and thymine, which we call as AT rich region. Okay, so this particular region of the DNA double helix AT rich region is the point of origin which will be recognized by the DNA helicase enzyme. Okay, why? Because we know that in between adenine and thymine there are two hydrogen bonds. In between guanine and cytosine there are three hydrogen bonds. So in order to break the hydrogen bonds, okay, if that is a double bond, it will be easy for the cell or the enzyme to break it because less energy will be consumed. So any site which is having more adenine and thymine, that region is called as point of origin or origin of replication. Okay, understood? What is replicon? The DNA segment or the region in which replication occurs, that is called as a replicon. Okay, so in a prokaryotic cell, if this is the circular DNA, only this part of the DNA will now carry out replication. The rest of this region will remain as double stranded region only. They will not undergo a replication. So only this region of this DNA is called as a replicon. Okay, so hence in a prokaryotic cell, there will be only one replicon. Whereas when we see a eukaryotic cell, there will be several replicons in tandem. What is tandem? We know that the size of the eukaryotic cell is larger, much larger compared to prokaryotes. So the DNA replication occurs at several sites but continuously, one after another. Okay, see here, in this region replication occurs. Then after that there is a break. In this region replication occurs. There is a break. That means in middle region there is no replication occurring. Okay, and here the replication occurs. So like this, one after another, the DNA replication occurs. So that is called as tandem. So in eukaryotic cell, there are several replicons. This is one replicon, this is another replicon, this is another replicon. Whereas in prokaryotic cell, there is only one replicon because the size of the DNA is small. Now, once the point of origin is recognized, the next step is to unwind the DNA double helix. That will be done by the enzyme DNA helicase. DNA helicase breaks the weak hydrogen bonds in the vicinity of point of origin. Okay, so look at this picture. Look at this picture. This is a double-stranded DNA, as how a knife or a scissor will cut the strand in between two fiber or something. Similarly, the DNA helicase will act as a molecular scissor. It breaks the strand and it unwinds the two strands. Okay, then an enzyme called topoisomerase will come and relieves the torque during the unwinding. So once the DNA helicase unwinds the DNA, a tension will be present in both the strands, right? So that tension is relaxed or removed by the enzyme topoisomerase. The name itself shows its function. See, helicase means it unwinds or remove the double helix. Topoisomerase, the T stands for topoisomerase. Here T stands for tension. So topoisomerase removes the tension between the two unwinded strands. Okay. The next thing is the single stranded binding protein. Single stranded binding proteins, it remain attached to both these two strands to facilitate the synthesis of the new strand. Once these two strands are separated, the single strand binding protein will come and remain attached to these single strand like this. So once the two strands were unwinded, the next thing is formation of a replication fork. What is replication fork? The point formed due to the unwinding and the separation of the two strands, they appear like Y-shaped structure. So that region is called as a replication fork. So that means in this picture, look at this picture here, the DNA strand was originally in a double-stranded helical structure. Okay, so here came a enzyme DNA helicase. It came and break the hydrogen bond. Okay, so this site is the point of origin of replication. So from this site, so far the DNA, which was a double helix in structure, now it got separated and it became single strand. Okay, so the region, at that region, the double helix opens up. So that region looks like fork. That's why this is called as replication fork. Okay, so the replication fork is the region where the unwinding and separation of the two strands occurred exactly. Okay, you understand? So there is two regions. One is point of origin. So this region is point of origin where exactly the helicase made a cut. That is point of origin. Now the replication fork means after the helicase came and break the hydrogen bonds, the two strands which were so far in a double helical structure, it gets opened up. That opened up region will appear like a Y-shaped structure. That structure is exactly what we call as replication fork. Now, since the two strands of the DNA cannot be separated throughout the double helix at a time, at only certain points the DNA gets separated. Okay, so look here. Here the double strand remains the same. Only here it gets separated. Why the separation did not occur throughout the length of the DNA? Because it consumes more energy for the cell to completely untwist the double helix and does the replication. That's why only at certain points the double helix get untwisted. Okay, then replication occurs. The rest region, they remain as a double helix structure itself. Okay, so this region is Y in shape. That's why this is called as replication fork. Now, once the strand gets separated, the next step is the synthesis of the new complementary strand. Right? So each separated strand now acts as a template for the synthesis of new complementary strand. So what is template? Template means model. So by looking at the parent strand as the model, new daughter strand will be produced. Okay, so here we call the parent strand as the template. So how this will be produced? So it needs something as a base. Using that base only, new strand will be produced. So here the RNA primer acts as a base for the synthesis of new DNA strand. Okay, see what is this RNA primer? RNA primer is a short segment of nucleotides. Maximum 10 to 12 base pair in length it will be, not more than that. So using this RNA primer as the base, then the new nucleotides of DNA will be added by the enzyme DNA polymerase. See, look at this picture. Here, this is the RNA primer. Okay, so it will appear like this. So RNA primer is a short segment of nucleotide. So this primer always runs from 5' to 3' direction. We know that any nucleic acid, it runs from 5' to 3' direction. So similarly, this RNA primer also runs from 5' to 3' direction. Okay, see here. When we look at this double helix structure, which is unwinded, okay, this structure. So this RNA primer get associated with the 3' of the template strand. That means if this is the template strand, okay, this is the template strand. This blue color is the template parent strand, okay. The RNA primer will come and attach to the 3' end of the template strand. So this is the 3' end of the template strand. So here the RNA primer, this red color rectangle, this comes and attached to the 3' end of the template strand. Why? Because when we see the structure of a nucleotides, okay, so in the structure of the nucleotides, it has 3' hydroxyl group. At the 3' carbon, it has a hydroxyl group. At 5' carbon, it has a phosphate group. Okay, so in the structure, in the hydroxyl group, this is the functional group. This is the functional group. Okay, so functional group means any new nucleotide will come and attach. They bind to this region only. Okay, see here, if this is the one nucleotide, okay, if this is the 3' hydroxyl group, this is the functional group. That means this region is more interactive. So when another nucleotide comes, this will come and attach to this part only. Okay, now this new nucleotides 3' end will be here. Okay, this end is again open up for the next nucleotide to come and attach. So the next nucleotide will come and attach here. Now its OH group will be here. So the next nucleotide will come and attach here. So like this, the synthesis of the polymers will occur from 5' to 3' direction. So the synthesis of the nucleic acid always occurs from 5' to 3' direction, but the primer will always attach to the 3' end of the parent strand. So see here, the RNA primer gets associated with the 3' end of the template strand. This is very, very, very important. It will be asked in the exams, okay? So it will attach only at the 3' end of the template strand, and it will attract the complementary nucleotides from the surrounding nucleoplasm. So those nucleotides will be added by the DNA polymerase enzyme, and it does the extension of the polymer. Okay, so accordingly here at the 3' end of the parent strand, the RNA primer comes and attach. Okay, so since the 3' hydroxyl end of the RNA primer is free, next what will happen? The DNA polymerase 3, this enzyme comes and at this site. It will add one by one nucleotide just complementary to the parent strand. That means if adenine is present in the parent strand, it will add thymine here. If guanine is present here, it will add cytosine. If cytosine is present here, like it will add guanine. Like that, this enzyme runs in 5' to 3' direction and keep on adding one nucleotide behind another. Okay, so this two nucleotides will be joined by a bonding called phosphodiester bond. So the newly bound nucleotides get interconnected by the phosphodiester bond. Okay, in the newly growing strand, the two nucleotides are joined together by phosphodiester bond. Similarly, this daughter strand and the parent strand, these two strands are held together by what bond? Hydrogen bond. Hydrogen bond. Okay, so look at this picture. Let us just understand the bonding between the two strands. Okay, so here this is one nucleotide. This is another nucleotide. So in between these two nucleotides present phosphodiester bond. Okay, now this is one strand. This is another strand. So in between two strands which runs in anti-parallel direction, hydrogen bond is present. Hydrogen bond is present. Okay, so these are the two bonds present in this DNA strand. Now the synthesis of the new complementary strand is catalyzed by enzyme DNA polymerase. So DNA polymerase does the extension or the synthesis of the new strand. Okay, in the 5 prime to 3 prime direction. This is 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Okay, so like this, the strand grows. So up to this, it will be very much easy to understand. Okay, when you see in your textbook, you could see like this structure. That means in the other strand, other end of the double strand, okay, here this synthesis of the DNA is not continuous like this. Okay, so there is a break, or the DNA is synthesized in short segment. Why this occurs? So this is the most confusing part for many students. Okay, so let us understand why in one strand the DNA synthesis is continuous, in another strand the DNA synthesis is discontinuous. So for this, you have to remember two important rules. Rule number 1, the DNA synthesis always occurs from 5 prime to 3 prime direction. This is rule number 1. This direction will never change at any cost. Okay, DNA synthesis always occurs from 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Rule number 2, the RNA primer always get associated with the 3 prime end of the template strand. This is the rule number 2. Okay, now accordingly, look at this picture. In this two separated strand, template strand, this is one template strand, this is another template strand. Okay, so when we see the lower strand, the RNA primer, this 5 prime to 3 prime direction, this red color thing is the RNA primer. This comes and attached to 3 prime end of the template strand. Then the DNA polymerase comes, acts here. The synthesis of the DNA occurs from 5 prime to 3 prime direction like this. So this strand completes both the rules of the DNA synthesis. Whereas if you see this strand, RNA primer has to come and bind near the 3 prime end of the template strand. So accordingly, this is the 3 prime end of this strand. Okay, this is the 5 prime end. So RNA primer here, this red color thing, RNA primer is coming and attached to the 3 prime end of the template strand. Also, the RNA primer always work from 5 prime to 3 prime direction. This is nucleic acid, so it has to grow. So 5 prime to 3 prime direction. So accordingly, the 5 prime is here and 3 prime is here. Okay, one of the property of DNA polymerase enzyme is it will work fine only in the 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Okay, that is the direction for its smooth working. So when we see at this strand, okay, here the primer is present in the 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Here the DNA polymerase will come and act, and it will extend the polymer like this smoothly in the 5 prime to 3 prime direction. So there is no problem at all for the enzyme to work in this strand. Whereas if you see the opposite strand, it is not so, because the strand is in anti-parallel direction. So here the DNA polymerase could not able to work smoothly or continuously. In order to avoid any mistake which occurred during adding the new nucleotides, okay, so the DNA polymerase here act intermittently. For a short segment of the DNA, it will add the complementary strand. Then it will stop working. Then again, after some short segment, it will start adding the complementary strand. So like this, it will work intermittently to avoid any wrong nucleotides to be added. Okay, so that is one thing done by the DNA polymerase here. So accordingly here, see, we know that the primer should attach always to the 3 prime end of the template strand. So accordingly, the primer is attached here. It is in the 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Now the DNA polymerase will come and act here. It will grow the strand in this direction. Then in between there is a gap. Again a primer is needed here. So the direction of the primer will be again from 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Then again the DNA polymerase will come here. It will grow the strand. Then there is a break. Again another primer is needed. Again the DNA polymerase will grow the strand. Again there is a gap. Another primer is needed. Again the polymerase will come and act, and it grow the strand like this. So like this, there is a break in between short small segment of DNA. Okay, so this small segment of DNA, this small segment of the DNA which is produced is called as Okazaki fragments. Okazaki fragments. That means the DNA is produced in this strand in small fragments, not produced continuously. So such fragments are called as Okazaki fragments. Okay. Now here the next thing is what we call as leading and lagging strand. What is leading and what is lagging strand? So when you see these two double strands which undergo replication, in this strand, the replication occurs continuously, whereas this strand, the replication is not continuous. Okay, so this strand, this parent strand is called as leading template. Leading template. Okay, and this parent strand is called as lagging template. Lagging template. Okay, so what do you mean by this? Template strand with the free 3' end is called the leading template. So whichever template strand is having free 3' end. See, the replication fork is like this, right? So any template strand with the 3' end free, that template is what we call as leading template. Leading template. And another strand with the 5' end free is the lagging template. Okay. So this is about the parent strand. So we name the parent strand as leading template and lagging template. Now what about the newly synthesized daughter strand? Okay. So the newly synthesized daughter strand, this strand is called as leading strand. Leading strand. See the difference. The difference is this is called strand. This is called template. Okay. So the newly synthesized leading strand and another, this thing is called as lagging strand. Lagging strand. Understood? There is another name also. The leading strand is synthesized continuously. The DNA polymerase acted here continuously. That's why this is called continuous strand. Here, there was a break in between each segment, right? So this is called as discontinuous strand. Understood? So this is the difference. So here, an important question which comes mostly in this topic is, on which parent strand the leading strand forms? On which parent strand the leading strand forms? So what is called as leading strand? The newly generated daughter strand is called as leading strand, right? So this is the leading strand. So on which parent strand this is formed? This is formed on the leading template strand. That is that strand which runs from 3' to 5' direction. So the parent strand which runs from 3' to 5' direction, on this strand only the leading strand forms. Now, the next step is maturation of Okazaki fragments. You know now what is Okazaki fragments. This DNA which is produced in small segments are called as Okazaki fragments. Why this is called as Okazaki fragments? Because this is a name of a scientist who discovered this first. Okay, it was named after the scientist. So, in this strand, these small segments of DNA has to be joined together because there is gap in between these segments of DNA. So that is done by an enzyme called ligase. Ligase is the enzyme which does ligation. Ligation means joining. Okay. So the enzyme ligase will come and join the gaps between these fragments. Okay. Then you could see this RNA primer is also present, right, in between every fragment. This red color thing. The RNA primer has to be removed because the RNA primer is no more needed. The strand has been produced. So the RNA primer are removed by DNA polymerase enzyme. Another kind of DNA polymerase enzyme is there that removes the RNA primer and the gaps are also filled. Understood? So these things happen finally during maturation of Okazaki fragments. So in this strand there will be many primers to be removed, whereas here in this leading strand, only one primer is there that will be removed. RNA primers are removed by DNA polymerase and replaced by DNA sequence with the help of DNA polymerase 1 in case of prokaryotes and DNA polymerase alpha in case of eukaryotes. See, there are different types of DNA polymerase in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, we will see in the next slide. Okay, so once the gaps are filled, RNA primers are removed, all the DNA fragments are joined together. Now another enzyme called DNA polymerase epsilon and nuclease comes into action. So it will do proofreading. So what is proofreading? Once we finish everything writing, we will just go through and check whether there is any mistake or not, right, before final submission. So that is proofreading. Okay. So once the nucleotides are added by the DNA polymerase, the enzyme polymerase epsilon and nuclease, they will check again the sequence if there is anything wrongly added in order to avoid mutation. Okay. So it will be proofread by this enzyme. So look at this table. This is about the DNA polymerase enzyme needed for the DNA replication. So the first one is in case of prokaryotes, okay? So in a bacterial cell, in a prokaryotic cell, 3 types of DNA polymerase enzymes are needed for replication. DNA polymerase 1, 2 and 3. So the most important enzyme which is needed for the replication is DNA polymerase 3. That means this is the enzyme which will go and bind next to the RNA primer and it will add one by one nucleotide and it will extend the polymer. So this is the enzyme for the replication. Okay. Then the repairing enzyme and filling the gap after the RNA is removed. This is all done by DNA polymerase 1 and 2. Okay. In case of eukaryotes, 5 enzymes are there. DNA polymerase alpha, beta, gamma, delta and epsilon. So out of these 5 enzymes, DNA polymerase delta is the enzyme which is required for the synthesis of the new strand. Okay, DNA polymerase delta. DNA polymerase epsilon, DNA polymerase beta, these are the repairing enzymes. That means removal of the RNA primer, filling the gap, all these things will be done by the other enzymes. You have to remember first the synthesized enzymes, DNA polymerase delta. Now, the last step is once the DNA replication is finished, what will be present now? 2 strands of the DNA will be there. Okay, the daughter cells will be there. So, they will be now as an individual strand. That has to be again twisted. Okay, in order to make it as a double helix, it has to be twisted. So, that is the formation of DNA molecules. So, the twisting of the newly produced DNA strand will be done again by the enzyme DNA topoisomerase. This also we call as gyrase. Gyrase is the enzyme gyrase or topoisomerase is the enzyme which involves in the twisting of the newly produced strand. Okay, understand? So at the end of the DNA replication, 2 daughter DNA molecules are formed. Okay, in each daughter DNA, 1 strand is the parent strand and only 1 strand is the completely newly formed strand. That means, so look at this picture here. This is the double strand DNA, parent DNA. This red color is the parent DNA. Okay. After one replication, this red color strand remains the same. That means the parent strand remains the same. Here also the parent strand remains the same. Only one copy of this double helix is the completely newly formed strand. That is the daughter. This green color is only the daughter. The red color is the same parent. That's why this mode of DNA replication is called semi-conservative mode of DNA replication. The parent strand is preserved here. Okay, 50% is contributed by the mother DNA or the parent DNA. In the newly formed strand, 50% is same, the parent DNA. Only the rest 50 is the newly generated daughter DNA. Okay, so like this DNA replication occurs. Okay, so if this is one DNA, after one cycle of replication, 2 copies will be produced. Again, this copy will undergo another replication cycle. Similarly, this copy will undergo another replication cycle. So if you see, this is one replication cycle. At the end of one replication cycle, how many copies of DNA will be produced? 2. At the end of 2 replication cycle, how many copies of DNA will be produced? 4. Like this, you have to multiply. Okay, understand? So this is how DNA replication occurs. So I hope this lecture is clear for you. Our next lecture is the proof how the DNA replication occurs by semi-conservative method. So there is an experimental proof for this. That is what we call as Michelson and Stahl experiment that we will learn in our next lecture. So if you like this lesson, like, comment, share and subscribe to our channel, NEET Biology Expert. Thank you.